Hi, welcome Comadres and Friends. I am Tess Tobin, Project Manager for Las Comadres and Friends National Latino Book Club. The leadership team is pleased to have you join us for tonight's teleconference as we begin our 19th year. It has been our privilege to support Latine authors throughout these 19 years, and we look forward to many more years to come. We'd also like to extend a warm welcome to readers following us on our live Twitter chat, ReadLatinoLit. Tonight, please help us welcome authors Kim Guerra and Susana G. Baumann. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping notes. Please keep yourselves on mute. You can keep your videos on, but we suggest you put yourself on speaker mode, but gallery works just as well. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat and we will try to get to them. Let's now start with our book club's history. Comadre Nidia?
Hello, my dear comadres. Let's start. So my name is Nidia Marsella. I'm the book club membership coordinator. Our book club began in July 2004 in the apartment of Maria Ferrer here in New York City. But after a brief pause, Nora Comstock reimagined and relaunched the organization nationwide. Her vision was to promote Latine authors, bring our community into bookstores, and support our writers. In October of 2006, we began hosting teleconferences, and now in the 19th year, we continue to share works by Latino authors with books lovers all over everywhere. Our book club and teleconferences are designed to encourage everyone, not just Latinos, to read more Latino literature, explore diverse cultural perspective, and gain deeper insight into Latino roots and heritage. We are creating a space where readers can explore the rich inner worlds of the Latino writers through their written work. We currently have book clubs in 12 cities across different time zones. We invite you to join a local chapter that fits your schedule. If your city isn't represented, we welcome you to help in starting a new club, wherever you are. For more information, you can visit the website that I'm going to post in the chat, and so spread the word and invite others to join our literary community. María, adelante.
Karen. Welcome, comadres and friends, to our May 2025 Zoom teleconference. I'm Karen Gonzalez, Assistant Coordinator for the Las Comadres and Friends Book Club, Denver Comadres Book Club Facilitator, and co-founder of the Colorado Alliance of Latino Mentors and Authors. Thank you for joining us tonight. Our first interview is with Kim Guerra, MFT. Kim is a writer, advocate, and entrepreneur and creator of Brown Badass Bonita, a brand movement that she considers to be a work of self-love and love for her community. She received the Agent of Change Award from Univision's Premios Juventud and has been recognized by Oprah, People, Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, Univision, Televisa, Remezela, R95 Somos, R29 Somos, and more. She continues to use her voice and platform to advocate for the immigrant, LGBTQ, and BIPOC survivors, mujeres, and oppressed communities. She has a master's in marriage and family therapy from Antioch University, Seattle. Interviewing Kim is Comadre Tess Tobin. Tess is the project manager for Las Comadres National Latino Book Club. She is the former president of Reforma, the National Association to promote library and information services to Latinos and the Spanish-speaking. She has been a proud member of the book club since 2007 and enjoys promoting the work of Latine authors. Take it away, Comadre Tess.
Hi, welcome Kim. How are you tonight?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited that you're with us tonight. I just don't know where to start with this book. I'm telling you, it's very, very positive, and I can't wait to hear you talk more about it. The back of the book ends with some beautiful affirmations, and I just wanted to know if you had any favorites.
Yes. My favorite, I think one of my life-changing ones, that it was somebody else in a random Facebook group that told it to me. But she said, your life is just as important. And I repeat that to myself. My life is just as important all the time, where I think I was raised to believe that my life was less than, or I had to sacrifice my life for the sake of others. And that phrase changed and revolutionized my life. And the other one is fuck being calladita. My silence does not equal my beauty. So I will not silence myself.
Right. You mentioned the phrase throughout the book, which I think is very powerful. Calladita te ves más bonita. And can you just talk a little bit about that for our readers? Because I just know it's something true to your heart.
Yes. So calladita te ves más bonita. I don't know if any of y'all have heard that or have been told that. It means that you look most beautiful when you're quiet. And we usually hear that phrase at a very early age. And I heard it from my mommy, and my mommy heard it from her mommy, and her mommy from her mommy. And it is a way to protect us, but it actually causes a lot of harm. And it's a lie that we don't look most beautiful when we're silent. I believe that we're most beautiful when we break that silence, when we see ourselves as powerful and beautiful, and that we define our own beauty. And silence is not part of that definition.
Right, right. And your term badass bonita, how did that come about?
That came about in an existential crisis in the bathtub. I was taking a bath, and I was in Seattle, and I felt like I was losing myself, and I felt like I was forgetting myself. I was seeing a lot of media, and it was also around the time, the first time Trump got elected, and I remember feeling that I needed to see my own power and my own beauty in order to not see myself through the eyes of the oppressor. And I had to ask myself, like, who am I? And then those words, brown, badass, bonita, came to mind. And I jumped to write them down because I hadn't really heard somebody celebrate all those elements of being a powerful, badass woman, of being a Latina, of being beautiful, and that those three things could and needed to coexist. And they were coexisting within me and the women around me. And I was taught to see those three things as maybe negative, or that they couldn't exist in one person. But then I saw they existed in me and all the women around me. So that's where it was birthed, in that existential bath time. And I am so, so grateful because they changed my life.
Right, right. You tell us you grew up in a very traditional Latina family, strict rules, very Christian, I believe, and the role of the woman was to get married and, sort of be subservient to the husband. And you were doing everything right. You went to college. You even said, oh, let's get married. You were loved and you were valued. But then at some point, you just said that was enough. What brought you to that point?
It was the question, how will I love myself? And I started to ask that every day. How am I loving myself today? And it started off with small things. That's like, okay, what's loving for me to wear? What's loving for me to eat? What's loving for me to, if it's loving for me to go outside, or who am I going to see? Which friends am I going to have coffee with? And then it started to get a little bit deeper. And then I started to examine, is this relationship loving to me? Am I showing up in a loving way for myself? Is this a loving life for me? And that question, is this loving to me, led me to change my whole life and to see myself through eyes of love and not through the shoulds, through the eyes of others. Because I was checking, like I spent my whole life checking things off, wanting to be loved and needing to be loved and approved and validated by others. And when I realized that that wasn't the core wound, that the core wound was that I didn't know how to love myself. So I was seeking love and approval from everyone and everything else. And then loving myself was probably the most courageous thing I did, but it was also terrifying because I had to teach myself how to do that.
Right. And that's a lot of how to grow and teach yourself how to love yourself. That's a large portion of the content of the book. Which you very well, have described with a lot of life and energy. So that's really the nice thing about the book also. Do you think love conquers all? Do you think this self-love is really what we all need?
I do. And I think it goes beyond us. I think that's where it starts, but it's not just about us. It's about learning to give that love, but also receive love from our community, from our loved ones, and how to give that love outward too. I think when you start loving yourself, you also start seeing those around you with that same love. Con esos mismos ojos de amor, with those same eyes of love. It's not just at the reflection in the mirror, but it's at those around you, your community, your family, the other women in your family, those that you share life with. You want to see them. I say you want to see them with wings. I think self-love leads you to give yourself wings to live a life that is liberated, a life that in which you are fully you and the most beautiful, powerful version of yourself. And then that leads you to want to see others with those same wings.
Right. And that's another part of the book. I mean, the book is divided on the stages of a butterfly. So you start out with the caterpillar, the chrysalis, the transformation, and then the beautiful butterfly and the wings. You did give yourself wings. You didn't ask for permission. You didn't fight over them. You gave yourself wings. Self-love and self-healing are definitely two things everyone needs for their mental health. When did you realize or come up with the metaphor with the wings? Because it's very strong. It's very powerful, I think.
I've been like, like a little butterfly obsessed girl since I was like in first grade, where I saw the caterpillar and that thing was ugly. It was like, it's like brown, hairy, ugly thing that I told my teacher, like, Miss Sanchez, like, why would you bring worms to our classroom? And she told me, like, Kim, like, they're going to become butterflies. And I was like, that's not true. Like, mentirosa, I don't believe you. And she's like, just wait. And then I would check every day and be like, they're not butterflies. And then one day the chrysalis was there and I was like, we don't even have worms anymore. Like, I don't even see them. And she's like, they're in that little cocoon. And once they're finished with their process, they're gonna turn into butterflies. And that stayed with me throughout my college experience, because that also, I felt like that small little worm when I went to college, that I didn't know anything. It felt like everybody knew what they were doing. And it felt like that also in my marriage, where it was like I felt so small and helpless. And I had to transform myself over and over again and trust in my ability to transform, in my ability to evolve, in my ability to fly and set myself free, because the butterfly does that on its own. It like decomposes itself to restructure itself and emerge into this completely different winged creature. And that stayed with me. And then when I started to take on clients, I wanted them to believe in themselves too, that you have the power to transform, even if it means, deconstructing yourself and starting all over again. Or it doesn't even mean starting over again. It means simply continuing that process towards your highest self.
Right. When did you decide to write this book? I know you have come out with 2 bilingual poetry books, and one happens to be called Mariposas. When did you decide to write this book?
When I was pulling an all-nighter in grad school, and I was frustrated because I couldn't find the research for and by Latinas that I needed for my research and for my paper and for my clients. And I remember I was frustrated because I was like, where are the books written for us and by us, or the papers and the research? And I remember that day, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to write it myself. And that's like where the little seed was planted, but I didn't actually believe that I was going to write a book like this by myself or on my own, years later. But I think that's where it was planted. And then I had to go through my own process to be able to gather the resources and be in a place where I felt like I could write from my scars and not from my wounds.
Yeah, and I see, you do cite a lot of other writers in your research. Was it a long time in putting this together, and did you have success with a publisher and all?
It was a long time, and thankfully I did have success. It was a hard road, I think. Very much felt like being a first gen like college student, being like a first gen like published author, because there are a lot of things that they expect you to know, or that those agencies aren't really created for and by Latinas. So I have to learn a lot of things or advocate for myself in a lot of ways. But I'm also very grateful for that learning opportunity too.
Right. And I see that your poetry books are bilingual, and I see in this book you intersperse a lot of Spanish. I mean,
Yes.
sometimes, you know, there's books where there's a word or two, but you completely talk in Spanish for a few sentences, and naturally you translate it. Did you have trouble with your publisher in getting that through them? Because, you know, I don't know how that is these days.
I did a little bit. I did have to advocate for the Spanish to be in there and the Spanglish, and there were certain things that I was like, nope, that has to stay, because a lot of these phrases we grew up hearing in Spanish, and a lot of those things don't have translation. And a lot of healing also has to be a little bit in Spanish and Spanglish, because we heard or we got wounded in Spanish, and there's things we need to heal in Spanish too. So I did have to push back, but I'm grateful that I was able to get as much Spanish and Spanglish in there as I did.
Good. And was it during this self-help and self-healing journey that you came out as queer?
Yes, I actually first came out as queer when I was married. My ex-husband was the first one that I came out to. We were watching a documentary on penguins, National Geographic, and they said like, oh, there's some penguins that are homosexual, and I'm like, this is my chance. So I told him, hey, I also like women, and he just looks at me. He's like, oh, I'm not surprised. I'm like, okay, great. And it was like the most anticlimactic coming out. It was very like that we didn't talk about it for a long time. And I shared with my friends and my family, or my siblings. They were supportive. After the divorce was like a couple years after, and my coming out was like a year or two after that. My parents were not as accepting. My grandmother was at first very cruel and then very loving. And it's been a process, and I understand that this is usually a process.
Right. And have you found some reconciliation with them? Have they grown also?
Yes, they have, and I feel very grateful for their growth. I like a couple months ago, I proposed to my partner, and my family. I called my family, I called his family, and it was a really beautiful. It's been a really beautiful process.
Well, that's nice. It's nice that it's all coming together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Any advice you could give to LGBTQ allies? Is there anything we could help?
Don't be quiet. Be loud in your love for those, and be loud in your privilege too. Be loud in your love, and be loud in how you show up, because oftentimes, especially now, I think everybody needs to be upfront about their support, and upfront about educating themselves and all the things that are happening, and letting people know that they're not alone, because it can feel really scary and isolating, and when you feel like the world is against you, and sometimes you don't know who to trust. I've had a lot of people who I thought were loving allies, and it turns out they weren't, and that was also really harmful.
Okay. So let's see. Would you say that Badass Bonitas is a brand now, or are you spreading the word? Are you using this book in your therapy sessions? I was curious.
Yes, well, my clients are using it. They're bringing it to the session, or I also host retreats. I just finished one this weekend, and it's like the women bring their book, and they're like, it's like we're living what we read, and we're doing what we've been reading, and that's kind of what I wanted it to feel like. I wanted it to feel like the book to feel like a collective healing experience, but then the retreat and the work that I do to integrate and immerse with the reading as well.
Very good. What's coming up next? Have you thought about a new book?
Yeah, so the next book I want is Queer Girl Around the World, and where I will share a little bit. So I've traveled a bunch doing this project where I traveled the world and connected with different queer communities in different parts of the world. And I want to share a little bit of what that's been like for me on my personal, but also in the community.
Very good. And also you were given the award, I'm just looking, what was the title? Something a Change. What was the award you received?
Agents of Change.
Agents of Change. Wow. How was that?
It was very special. It felt beautiful to, in a way, it felt like it was like a community, like my community was receiving this with me, and my family from Mexico and LA got to see me on Univision, which is like, you know, the top thing you can do in many Latino homes. I was like the only channel my family watched growing up. So for them to see me on there, my grandmother that was probably like one of the proudest moments because she could relate. She was not happy when I was getting my master's, but she was very happy to see me on Univision. So it was and it was beautiful for them to also hear my message when up there.
Now, did you have this thought about, the badass Bonitas while you were in grad school, or did this develop before and then you decided you wanted to help people professionally?
No, it did start when I was in grad school. It started because I made a t-shirt with the brown badass Bonita, and I made one for me because I was like, okay, I need to remind myself of, who I am, and like, I'm going to wear this as a reminder. I'm going to wear this as a shield. And so I put it up online, and it kind of blew up, where I had women from all over the world, like India, all over the States, Mexico, different parts of Central and South America, saying, oh my goodness, like, I'm a brown badass Bonita too. Nobody had told me, like, where can I get that shirt? And I was like, well, I just made one. So I had to Google like how to sell t-shirts, and that's kind of how Brown Badass Bonita, the brand, started. And it became a movement because after that we would have, Badass Bonita gatherings and events and meetups where it's like, if you're a Badass Bonita, show up. And the first one, 60 people showed up, and they brought their art. My best friend and I made tamales, and it was such a beautiful, beautiful like movement momentum that's still going on.
Right. That's wonderful. Well, I want to thank you so much for, coming and talking with us tonight. And I really want to wish you the best on your continuing journey. And I think we heal our whole lives. I think,
yes.
It's not just something you do and then you're healed. New things pop up. And so thank you for sharing your love and light with us tonight, Kim. And
yes.
we wish you all the best. And just so you know, Las Comadres, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary. And we are a sisterhood, and I think we're pretty badass too.
You are. I see it. We have Badass Bonitas present right here. Thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you, Kim, for joining us tonight. Best of luck.
Gracias. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Gracias, comadres. Our second interview is with Susana G. Baumann. Susana is an Argentinian immigrant who started her own business, LCS Worldwide Multicultural Marketing Communications, offering multicultural leadership and staff development training to major pharmaceutical and healthcare corporations, national nonprofit organizations, and government agencies in healthcare and education. In 2014, she launched Latinas in Business, an initiative that advocated for the economic empowerment of Latinas and other minority women entrepreneurs and working in corporate America. She lives in New Jersey and enjoys the New Jersey shore when she is not traveling or spending time in Argentina. Interviewing Susana is Comadre Tania Soleil. Tania is a multilingual, English, French, Hebrew, and Spanish, multicultural, technology, and environmental entrepreneur. She has been a speaker at events in China, India, and the USA. Her current company, Blue Decil, is a mission-driven B Corp, solving the problems of water and energy through localized, sustainable wave-powered desalination ponds. In 2024, with the support of California STEP grant, Tania represented Blue Decil during the U.S. Clean Trade Mission to India, led by Assistant Commerce Secretary Arun Venkataraman. She has been a Comadre since 2020. Take it away, Comadre Tanya.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Susana. Nice to meet you.
Tanya.
So I usually like to start my interviews by going through a person's background. But in this case, your book, and I mean, I don't have to show it, you have it on your background. You referred to your story. So tell us.
Well,
Story.
I wanted to thank the book club and Comadres, Tess, Maria, Nora, everybody for inviting me tonight and being able to talk a little bit about my book, which is a wonderful opportunity to connect with the community of authors and with the Latino community in general, which I cherish, so much. So I am an immigrant. I have the three qualifiers. I'm an immigrant, a woman, and a Latina. So all my struggles were around those three qualifiers for the 35 years I've been in this country, right? And I always worked towards helping others overcome the barriers that come with these three qualifiers. And I came in to the United States in 1990 as a choice. I was not a political exile. I came here because we chose to come here. And but it became, with time, it became sort of an exile. And sometimes I go back frequently to my country, to Argentina. And but I decided that once I was here, I needed to start. I'm a doer. I belong to the generation where we are a doer. I was listening to Kim, and it's such a difference, in the way we see each other as a generation. I was always a doer in my whole life, and I had to start, building something that will mean something for the good of other people. And that's how I started my career. As an entrepreneur like yourself first, and then I also founded this Latinas in Business platform that helped a lot of Latino women and other minority as well promote their businesses. So.
But in your book, and I mean, the title is right there, Tell Your Story. As I put it to Maria as we reviewed the interview and to Tess, there's at least a third of the book that's autobiographical.
Yes.
Tell us, because that's what you're really telling people. Take your story. In your case, you use yours in this book.
Exactly. Patches of my story to kind of illustrate the point I'm trying to make on the book, right? The first part of the book is a journey of self-discovery. I think we all need that. We know if we are going to say something, and this is for all the people on the call that sometimes feel like, I would love to write a book. I would love to write a memory, but I don't know how. How can I start? What do I say about my life? It's so boring and not. And this book, that's the intention of the book, a little guide to help you tell your story. You think your story your life might be boring, but there's so many stories that you can tell if you just give them a little twist and make them interesting. And I think that's the idea of this book. The first part is a journey of self-discovery. What do you want to say? Who am I? In a way. The second part is how to tell the story. So all the examples that I use from movies, TV shows, and mass media, because I think we have a lot of influence, a great influence from mass media in the way we tell our stories. And I give some pointers there for the people who wants to speak up and and also have that influence on others. I've been asked, for instance, well, I'm too old, I don't need to tell well, what about legacy? Legacy is important at a certain age or a certain time of your life. Right now, I think about I have two granddaughters, which I adore. And I think, what am I going to leave for them, for them to know me, right? And what I did, or how my life was in Argentina. They weren't born here and they haven't been to Argentina. So that's how I wanted to guide this book, in order to let them something when they're 12 or 13, so the book is a little not so interesting for them, but maybe someday they will, read the book and understand all the struggles that women went through their lives. I was born in 1950. I'm pretty old. So I lived through a whole of number of changes in our lives as women. And I want them to cherish that, to value the struggles and the tribulations that our generation went to really get to the point where we are right now. So that's important to me.
But you basically, I mean, I read the book, just in case it's not clear. But you talk about in the book how, when it came time to leave, yes, you wanted to leave Argentina, but you could have gone other places. Your father is from Switzerland. You had other options. So how did you make the to immigrate to the United States?
My grandfather was from Switzerland. My mom's side is all Italian. As a woman of my generation, I followed my husband at the time. So, the decision was made by him.
Okay, and so you just felt that this was a good place.
And there was, it was an easy decision for us. He had a job offer. It was an easy decision for us because my background in Argentina, I attended an American school all my life. And I was proficient in English. And, I knew how to sing the Star Spangled Banner before I came to the United States. So in a way, I was familiar somehow with the culture. And I said, well, we have this opportunity. Maybe that's the way to go. And that's how we made the decision. But yes, we could have we could have chosen probably Italy in Europe, or or Spain, because of the language. But we took the hard choice.
Or not. If we're talking about it as women empowerment, the options in the United States are usually better. But you also encourage readers to use the storytelling as a leadership tool and to influence others. Now, I've traveled a lot, as you heard in the bio and everything. And one of the issues that I have with American culture, so to say, is this obsession with influencing everybody. Mm-hmm. And so why do you think we should be influencing everybody or looking to influence everybody?
Because I think we need good influences. We need to speak up for good influence in our teams, where we're leaders in our teams. I think we are bombarded by bad influences from media, from sources of information, from political parties, from so many so-called leaders that have spurious intentions. So when I encourage people to speak up, it's because we need good people to speak up. We need good people to hold those values, to hold our beliefs, to care for each other, to keep our community together, right? And that's why we need to influence in a good way, to leave our traditions to our children and grandchildren, to value those traditions, and that this country is a country of immigrants, no matter what, anybody says. And we, because of the traditions that we all bring to this country, is the incredible opportunity of innovation and progress that we experience in the United States. And that we everybody brings a little bit of something to the table. And that's why I think it's important, the influence.
So I come from a slightly different perspective, okay? I know that we have a very polarized and, environment, and like you said, a lot of negative influences out there. But I believe that the solution to the country's discord right now is everybody needs to lower the volume, both the good and the bad, whatever side you believe on. I believe that our problem is that we've urged each other to constantly be louder and louder and louder, and it's way past time to lower the volume, so to say, to be a little bit more considerate, to be a little bit more positive. And I'm going to read one part from your book, page 85, and I quote now: "Hundreds of times I've been asked where I am from. And depending on my mood or who was asking, I tell them the name of my hometown and then keep silent. It forces them to then say, quote, where are you from originally, unquote. To which I then say, I'm from Argentina. Other versions are, quote, where is that lovely accent from, unquote. Quote, how long have you lived in this country, unquote. Where did you learn English, unquote, and many more. I try not to take them seriously, but it's a constant reminder that you are in a place where you don't belong and not always welcome." And that's what you write.
Yes.
And so
that's the question.
And the question is, why is it always assumed that it's something bad, that it's a bad question?
No. And, some friends of mine have asked me that question. And with living 35 years here in this country as an outsider, because you're an immigrant, you're always an outsider. You never totally belong in so many ways. I've learned to kind of read those questions. Sometimes they're done with good intention and people are really interested, and sometimes they're not. And you notice immediately in the way the question is addressed, or the way that they react to your answers, that what the intention of the question is. And I think it would be it's obvious that we are living in that divide right now, right? Especially in this moment. In this moment, we are living in that the big divide. Honestly, I have never, in 35 years that I've been in this country, I have never lived in fear the way I feel right now, because I think there is especially a focus on immigrants right now, which is, kind of very scary. I think it's scary. That's my take, and I value your opinion. I respect it. But I think, my opinion is that we live in this moment in a very, very scary. And when I say speak up, and I wanted to address what you said before about being loud, I never said you have to be louder than the other person. I say we all have to tell our stories, and we have to share our stories, because when you the problem in the gap or the divide many times have to do with fear. That person that reacts to the otherness of the immigrant is usually fear, right? Fear of the unknown. Who is this person that is coming to this country, and who knows what they're doing, right? And if you tell your story and you share your stories and you learn to know each other, I think that's, you don't have to be loud. You don't have to be loud. You just have to share.
No, I agree that we have to share, but I think that there's been, and I'm not disputing that the current environment is stressful for some people, but I think that the environment has been stressful for the last 10, 15 years. It's just getting worse, worse, and worse. And so, you know, how this will resolve itself, you know, and so as I'm seeing this or books like this, self-help, I would call it, self-help books, I mean, in the end, I think the solutions that we're looking for as a society is how to bring everybody together.
Yes.
And so that's my concern with when you talk about, you know, terminology like speak up, which, you know, I get that what you're trying to say is equal voices, but where we've gotten to as a culture is who can shout loudest. And we have to somehow, and this obsession, you know, with branding and influencing, I think can be very deleterious for the society at large. But so what is your approach to, you know, bringing this all together to be more inclusive so that it's not you versus me versus, you know, am I going to influence you or are you going to influence me, so to say, from the title of your book?
I think we are both going to influence each other in the way, or in as long as we are respectful of each other's stories and are respectful of each other's experiences and are respectful of each other's you know, lessons in a way. And that's the idea. The idea is, and I say that in the book, not to create more divide. It's to find common ground, to find stories of togetherness. Let me give you an example. Latinos, we have family values, right? We have religious values, and we have many traditions that have many things in common with American culture. So just because we speak another language and we look different in many ways, or, you know, that doesn't mean that we have a lot of things in common. But if you don't listen to my story, then you would never know. I used to do this. My first book, Hola Amigos, A Plan for Latino Outreach for Library Personnel, was my experience in teaching libraries how to reach out to Latino customers and populations. I was part of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation program. And as a result of that experience, which lasted 2 years, I wrote that book. And when I went around, you know, training library personnel, it was always that, you know, how can we share our stories? And I remember I started my trainings asking people to share their story. Where were they from? Where is your background? Where, you know, tell me recipes from your families, and, you know, tell me some traditions that you still hold at home. And everybody, by sharing those stories, everybody took kind of, you know, understood that that's no different with the new immigrants. It's no different. Because you have been in this country maybe 2, 3 generations, doesn't mean that the new immigrants are different. We bring also traditions and good values and good responses to the same problems. And we all want to, like I said, the togetherness, the contribution, the way you hold community is to learn to respect each other.
So as you mentioned, your book has kind of, the first half where it's more autobiographical, and then the second half where you give more, strategies or ways, tips to do this. What would be your top 3 tips to, promote yourself, speak up, influence others, become a leader? What would be your top 3 tips?
I'm going to give you one tip. I'm going to go in gut tip. You have to know who you are in order to then decide if you want to lead, if you want to have influence. When you write a book, no matter what it is, it's always a journey of self-discovery. How can you? I have one quote there from a guy, a leader called Kramer, and he says, "How can you lead if you don't lead yourself?" And for me, it resonated very, very profoundly, because if you don't know what you're thinking, if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what you stand for, if you don't know all those good questions that we need to ask ourselves, really, how can you then, ask people to influence other people and ask people to follow you if you don't know what you're thinking, what your thinking is? So this is the one tip I always recommend. Do your journey, do your homework, find out, what you want and who you are as a person, as an individual, as a human being, and also as a family leader, as a community leader, as an industry leader. No matter in what position you are, you need to know who you are. That's my big tip.
And so you mentioned you had written another book. This was your second book. So what's next? What are you planning for? What's the next stage?
Okay, so now that I'm trying to teach how to write a story, I'm trying to apply my own teachings, and I'm writing my first novel. And this is a historic novel from a period of time in Argentina, where we had a very oppressive military regime, the military dictatorship. And it's a story of 2 friends who separated for 20 years. One went into exile, the other stayed in Argentina because of the political rife. And now they're trying to come back together to fix that rift that there was between the both of us. And it's also very autobiographical in a way, because I lived that period of time. But fiction gives you the freedom to build your characters that reflect, many aspects that I'm not, so.
Well, good luck. We wish you all the best. It's going to be a big change from 2 nonfiction self-help type books.
Yes, it is very exciting.
So we look forward to hearing about your new book next time.
Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate the interview, and everybody for being here tonight. Thank you.
Wow, 2 great interviews and wonderful conversations. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to our authors and their publishers, Excel Brands, LLC, and Balance, for generously donating books to our early registrants. Special thanks to our incredible interviewers, really, Comadre Tanya Soul and Tess Tobin. We appreciate our audience for joining us tonight and submitting thoughtful questions. Most importantly, we want to recognize our dedicated volunteers, without whom this book club and all the work associated would not be possible. Mil gracias. Supporting Latine authors is crucial to our mission. We encourage you to write reviews on platforms like Amazon, Goodreads, Barnes & Noble, as these reviews significantly impact publishers and potential readers. And if you need examples of it because you don't know what to do, we have some on the ReadLatinoLit website, so just run over there and read those and figure out what to do. Consider purchasing books to directly support our authors, and if your local library lacks a title you're interested in, don't hesitate to request that they order it. We invite you to attend our virtual local book clubs as well as physical meetings and bring friends along. Remember, our book club is open to men and women, Latinos and non-Latinos. All are welcome. Looking ahead, our June 2025 books are Alligator Tears by Edgar Gomez, Abuela Lore by Isabela Santana. Thank you all for your continued support of Las Comadres and Friends National Latino Book Club. And join us in celebrating Las Comadres and Friends National Latino Book Club by buying books and supporting Latino authors. Let's applaud and amplify diverse literary voices throughout the year. Good night, and always read Latino Lit.